from a master. Welcome back. Time to turn the heat up. The panel is fully fuelled and ready to go. Senator Hollie Hughes, Prue McSween and Graham Richardson. How are we tonight?
Firing on all fours.
Dangerous.
Oi, that's good. Prue, can you believe the Cambridge University Student Union?
Yes, I can. And this is the sad indictment of these people who, join the unions at these universities, and they sit around smoking whatever they smoke and fingers up their backsides thinking, what can we do that's going to stir them up? Who else can we have a go at? And this is just another example of their stupidity. They're in Cambridge, for God's sake. They're supposed to have a brain. But the joke is on them because they wanted Cleese there. But now they perhaps have had pause to think about the fact that this kind of banishment, this humiliation of people, these pseudo-intellectuals, because they haven't got many brains, if they actually thought that Dixon was actually doing anything other than explaining how, biases can be good, well, it can be good and bad.
Yeah.
In fact, it's an important part of our life's judgment that we understand good, bad, people who may be less, well, people like me, I suppose, who like to offend as often as possible and speak their mind. And, I think that it's important. It's all the hallmark of democracy. So it's a pretty sad state of affairs, but this cancel culture should be cancelled.
Yeah, Hollie, this garbage is out of control here as well. Like, finding offences become an industry, and we cancel anything with the slightest connection to historic bad deeds.
I mean, I hope these kids one day go and watch, I don't know, a fish called Wanda, let alone having seen Faulty Towers and understand how absolutely hilarious they were. I mean, we were only talking earlier today about the producers and the song as part of that absolutely fabulous musical Springtime for Hitler, written by Mel Brooks.
Yes.
And I'm sure this lot will be keen to cancel it. But the fact of the matter, these Cambridge students have put together a blacklist, which I understand they're now trying to walk away from. They might want to look at the last time there was a list situation and what happened under McCarthy, and the fact that they would say that that's abhorrent, but they are doing exactly the same thing with these lists, and they're dangerous. And I think 21-year-olds who have no experience of life, who are just entering the fray of the world, should really butt out when it comes to what happened and what came before them with regards to this cancel culture. It's absolutely obscene. This was stuff we all grew up with that was hilarious, and it was hilarious and has sustained itself over the years. I'm pretty sure Life of Brian might actually send these guys apoplectic. I mean, these were the stuff we all thought was hysterical, the cancel culture. Cancel themselves. See you later. It's absolutely out of control. They're going to miss out on some of the funniest things that ever happened in the past, and it's going to be a very dull future if that's what we've all got to do.
And I'm sure, having met John Cleese myself on 2 occasions, the fact that they are basically ruining the opportunity to meet John Cleese in person and engage with him, they will regret that for the rest of their lives. Now, making COVID-19 vaccinations mandatory for teachers in Australian schools has not seen hundreds of teachers resign, despite the threats from the anti-vaxxers. The order has been almost unanimously adhered to, but not in the creative school system known as Steiner. Richo, dozens of New South Wales Steiner teachers face the sack because they don't want to get jabbed. What don't they understand about vaccine science that we've been producing for decades? Richo, can you hear me?
Oh, sorry, mate. I missed a bit of that. I think if we're talking about Steiner schools, for a start, we're talking about something that's very odd. These are not normal schools. Otherwise, they'd be much more a part of our normal education system. And I think one of the things that you've always got to do when it comes to school kids is all kids have got to be treated the same. You can't have different classes of school children. And I think inevitably that's what the Steiner schools have tried to create. Now, I may be being unfair, but I've had a look at them over the years, and it's just not a trend I think is good for Australian education.
Yeah, if that's what teachers are doing in those schools, you wonder what they're telling the kids about vaccinations as well. Now, Ita is not happy. Jan, the chair of the ABC, Ita Buttrose, has accused the federal government of political interference. When I saw that headline today, I thought, well, who's gone in and threatened all sorts of nastiness? This is over a decision to launch a Senate inquiry into the way the ABC and the SBS handle complaints. Now, I know that in the commercial media world, ACMA often asks media bosses in to explain their complaint procedures. It's very important. Why is that not important and necessary for the ABC, Prue?
Well, it is more than any other institution, I would have thought. They have to explain themselves for a number of reasons. One, we're paying for them. And their charter is that they're supposed to be fair and unbiased. We know they're anything but. I don't know what's happened with Ita. She used to be a lot more balanced. She's drunk that ABC Kool-Aid. I don't know what happens over there. Is it some sort of social creep that imbues itself into people? I don't get it. But they don't cancel themselves. They don't. Their inquiries are really bad. When you look at what's happened with some of the latest issues where they've had journalists, reporters who have actually really cost the taxpayer a fortune because they've actually printed wrong stuff. And then there's been whole legal appeals and whatever, and they seem to get away with murder. The ABC needs a proper inquiry into it because it is so biased. It is not representing the views of most Australians. We just want a public broadcaster that is going to present views, the news, etc., without bias. And sadly, we don't have that. So we need that inquiry.
Hollie, of all the things Ita could whinge about, like you'd expect it to be for funding or some minister threatening all sorts of nasty things, or maybe she thought that MPs were deriding her news shows and Four Corners on there. I get all of that if she wanted to be upset about that, but she gets upset about a Senate inquiry asking questions about her complaint process. Talk about pressures.
Well, I thought the headline was actually irony when I saw it today. I thought this can't be serious. It's the complaints that they've been getting over these consistent programming decisions that they've made, whether it's the Luna Park, some of the Four Corners shows, and then the tweets of journalists that have resulted in taxpayers spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in court cases over defamation. I'd love to see an independent ABC. It's not independent. It's absolutely biased. It's left-wing, and it's leaning that way more and more. And if they had a complaints process that was effective, or they were actually in the first place not producing these programs at great taxpayers' expense that didn't require a complaint system, then we might not require Senate inquiries into them. But they are taxpayer funded. Every single one of those journalists, producers, researchers, every single person that works there is paid by the Australian taxpayer.
Yep.
And they are there to represent and present a balanced view. I know a lot of people in the bush rely on them when it comes to weather and information about what's happening on the ground around agriculture. I think the ABC has lost its way. They've got a website now that's devoted more of its coverage to polyamorous relationships than anything else that is apparently now the norm. They are so out of touch with mainstream Australia. I think they take a walk around 3 blocks from Ultimo and decide that's what all Australians are thinking, and that is not the case.
I think you might be right. Richo, just on the ABC, maybe it's just been one hell of a year for Ita, you know, with everything that's occurred with defamation and cases involving the Attorney-General, Four Corners, text messaging, and it's just all got a little bit too much for her. Maybe she just needs a holiday.
Yeah, maybe she does, but if you take on the job as boss of the ABC, you understand every year's like that. That's what running the ABC is like, because the ABC is always out there challenging. I suppose that's a good thing, but of course some of the challenges are pretty awful, and that means you get trouble. The trouble with the ABC, though, having been a minister once, is they don't like any form of oversight. They want none. They want to be able to just continue on in their own merry way. And they've got to understand that when you're spending $1 billion of taxpayers' money, it's not 2 bob, it's $1 billion. Well, if you're going to spend that sort of money, you've got to expect that people are going to look over your shoulder and see what you're doing with it.
Spot on. You've just encapsulated everything that is wrong with whinging about this particular inquiry.
Exactly.
Prue, Hollie, Richo, must run. Have a great week.
Thanks, Smithy. Bye, guys.
Good on you, mate.
Coming up, he's in quarantine and not enjoying it too much. Federal Resources Minister Keith Pitt on becoming the newest member of Cabinet. The former electrical engineer and sugarcane farmer is one of 21 rural MPs about to face his constituents over net zero. Good luck with that. Keith Pitt up next.